Well, hello. Hope you guys had a good day. I hope you were able to get a few things done, maybe a few extra things accomplished, and that you're feeling prepared. So the 8 o'clock advisory did just come in, and that's what I was kind of looking for. The graphics are a little bit slow, and this one particular website that I happen to like just really doesn't want to load graphics, but it's getting there. It's just very slow going. And here they are. So this is good stuff. So today was the day, I think, for most of us to try to get everything outside in. Just start securing stuff so things aren't, floating around with the possibility of them acting as missiles. Earlier today, Irma pushed ashore on, actually late last night, pushed ashore on the Cuba coastline. Winds got disrupted a little bit, so it went down to 125 mile per hour winds. Hi again, everybody. The difference is that we're not sure that that is temporary or if it's permanent, the decrease in winds. What we do believe is going to happen is it will keep moving, generally through the straits toward the Keys, and there's a really warm pocket of water there. Most of you guys know this. And with that, there's that possibility of re-strengthening, and if it re-strengthens, yes, it could jump back up to a category 4 or even a 5. So there's a little bit of a weakening, but it may only be temporary. So I don't want you guys to get caught up with that. And I have said this to you before, and I've been trying to caution you about these things before. Just because you see one thing, and it may in fact change, don't think that that means the whole thing has migrated, moved, changed, weakened, whatever it is that you're thinking. Don't think that way. Because, whatever we think about this thing, it's doing whatever it wants. So keep that in mind. This thing has pretty much got a mind of its own. All right, so I'm going to flip it around, you guys. Sandra, Ellie, how you guys doing? So here's the latest. This is the 8 o'clock track from the Hurricane Center. I'll put the track on for you. You see the cone. I like the cone instead of the track. We point, we look at a line or a point, and then we kind of think that this is what it's following. We're talking about an enormous system. We're talking about a system that is going to cover about 400 miles. If you guys have been with me, and a lot of you have, it's covering one of these boxes. So if you look at it as a box, it is going to cover the entire state of Florida, east, west coast, and all the way up as it moves. This is just what they're showing here in the colors. That's just a wind field. And so at this point, we've got, see the red? That red is hurricane warning, and this is a little bit new, but the hurricane warning, it's pretty much the entire coastline of Florida. It stops over here by the Osceola River. Hurricane warning from Fernandina Beach, southward around the peninsula to, it's really the Indian Pass area. And then west of Indian Pass, that blue, and here's the color key, that's a tropical storm warning. So pretty much the entire state of Florida, through Indian Pass, hurricane warning. The blue just to the west here from Indian Pass, and that would go, let's say, to the Okaloosa-Walton County line. That's your tropical storm warning. So a hurricane warning means conditions in 36 hours. We knew what was going to happen in terms of wind. We knew that this thing was kind of coming our way. And so with it, there's not really been a change on any of that. We have also watched, and I've been trying to caution you guys about this, a little bit of a wobble, a little bit of a nudge. You follow the skinny line, it goes this way, it goes that way. We're all in a panic. The overall motion is continuous. It hasn't really migrated in one true direction or another. We still believe it's going to head more in a northwesterly direction. We're really hoping on that turn tonight. As the turn happens, and this is really what we have to watch for tonight, we'll kind of know as it approaches the southwest coast of the peninsula, which way it's headed, more as it heads toward North Florida. So it's got to make the turn. It's rolling off the back of Cuba. It pushed ashore, and now it's rumbling off, and as it rolls, it's really like a bull in a china shop. It's going to bounce around a little bit. So even if the eye moves a little bit, not convinced that direction has changed, but it should move toward the straits, toward the Keys, a lot of warm water, possibly some strengthening, and then pushes ashore. Now, it could be a little bit more to the right, it could be a little bit more to the left, but we're pretty comfortable in telling you it's going to be in the cone. And unfortunately, on either side of the cone, we're talking about the entire peninsula getting minimally hurricane force winds. That's the wind field. That's the hurricane force wind. So you could play the game, but again, these things migrate. If you play the game right now and it comes this way, we would be in Leon County on the cusp, on the edge of those hurricane force winds. What if? I'll play it out for you. What the heck? I've had a shower, I've had some dinner, I feel a little bit more refreshed, I worked out, so I'll play any game you guys want to watch. Let's say it moves more toward the west. Well, now you're talking not necessarily a direct hit, but more of a direct impact. And that would be a longer duration of hurricane force winds. That's, that scenario. Let's say it's still in the cone, remember, so, that is possible. What if it maybe nudges a little bit more to the east? Of course, that would put it more toward the Jacksonville side. That, of course, would bode so much better for us up here in North Florida. So, those are the scenarios, but it can go either way. And stop, don't focus on that skinny black line. Don't focus on the points. Last night, there was a little bit of, and I said this, cautious optimism. They pretty quickly had it weakening. Note today, they've readjusted. They have it making landfall as a major category, either 3 or 4 hurricane. It's a 3 now because, let me remind you, winds are at 120. Again, small signs. It was 125 at 5 o'clock. The 8 o'clock, this is the newest advisory, they're down to 120. All these little things kind of make you feel a little bit better, I'm hoping. But the motion now, west-northwest at 7. If you guys have been with me, you may know that, I was waiting for the turn. The turn usually happens as the system starts to slow down. I didn't want it crossing over the 80-degree longitude, and it did, because I had said that if it were to cross to the west of the 80-degree longitude, it would be far worse for Florida, and it did. So that means we're getting much more of an impact, and the only other choice would have been for it to not cross and then stay east and then start to turn, and it did not do that. But we knew that was a possibility and a probability, and of course that's exactly what it did. We saw a couple of wobbles shifting more toward the west. Normally as they start to approach, it kind of moves the opposite way, so we're looking at more of an east shift, but there's nothing that you can bank on at this point. All right, so let's see what's happening now. I want you guys to see exactly what's going on. Here is satellite. All right, so you're looking at satellite, and the reason I show you this, not to be redundant, but here's Cuba, right? There's the center, so the red is the eye wall, right? This is where you got the strong winds, the heavy rain, all that's happening. They're getting pretty hammered. Haven't seen any pictures yet, but we know that the impact is there. The center is right here, and as you see it, it's kind of rolling off the coast. As it rolls off the coast and further away from land, that means, and I guess that should be farther because it's a distance, that means that it would be across more open water. Not the whole thing in its entirety, but more of it across water. Water temperatures are incredibly warm. You guys have traveled over the summer. You know this. That warm water is what fuels a hurricane. So it heads toward the Keys. The straits are incredibly warm. And then, the turn should start to happen and it pushes ashore on the southwest coast of Florida. I can't give you a city. If I gave you a city, I'd be, I'd be stupid for doing that because I'm not going to say here's one particular area where we think it's going to hit. So where is it hitting right now? How about that for a radar view? That's Miami's radar. And so what is happening now is the rains are moving in. So the eye wall hasn't hit yet. If you have seen some of the videos, and it's everywhere on television, so if you're watching some of these people, they're standing out in the wind and they're standing out in the rain, what they are currently experiencing mostly is on the southeast coast of the peninsula. So here's Key Largo. Let me point out a few cities. I know they're tough to see here. This is down and dirty. You guys want to see this is my little studio. I got an iPad, I got a computer, there's all kinds of stuff, there's all kinds of me. And that's where we are. Okay, so this is down and dirty. It's about as simple as it can get, and I'm trying to keep it as simple as it can get so that you guys really try to understand exactly what's happening. And I'm not sure I'm going to clear anything up, but I'll tell you what we can figure out at this point. There's Marathon. There's Key West. Here's Key Largo. Now here's Miami. And then, of course, north of Miami, you've got Fort Lauderdale. There's West Palm up over here. A little bit west, you've got Belglade. Naples is here, and that's Fort Myers. Fort Myers, West Palm, south, Miami's here. So the center is still way down here. It's not close to the Keys yet, because remember, it's still just rolling off the spine of Cuba at this point, but these are the bands. And this one's got some pretty good winds along with it, and unfortunately, and we've talked about this as well, not only do we have a hurricane, which brings wind, rain, thunderstorms, storm surge. Now we have had cooler, drier air because we had a cold front come through. And when cooler and drier collides with warm and muggy, because that's what you have when you have tropical air, you can get some other aspect of severe weather. And of course, that means tornadoes. So you see these red things that are popping up? Sporadic tornado warnings On top of everything else, tornado warnings. And you know, look at this. See that red? That's a pretty intense thunderstorm. You get a little bit additional rotation, the environment is set, and so on top of everything else, you'll get that. You know, the winds in a tornado, usually if they're driven by a hurricane, are a little bit weaker than what the hurricane would do, but, you know, on top of everything else, you know, it's just one more aspect to the hurricane that we're having to deal with. So just so that you guys understand why that's happening right now. So here's a pretty intense band, right? And remember, the whole circulation's counterclockwise. So it's going to roll up, and then it's moving down. It rolls up, and then it moves down. So if you watch it, right, it's not really a due west, because now it's going to push down toward the southwest. But that's the way it should go, because it all moves counterclockwise. So right now, it's pretty good fetch of moisture. You know, it's deep, it's elongated, it's almost a training effect, because it seems to be moving across the same path. But that's the Miami area. Here's a pretty solid area of rain. You're going to watch this update right in front of your eyes, because I have this set on the auto update. Here's a pretty solid area of rain. You know, light to moderate, and again, some thunderstorms will be embedded. This is not the full scope of the rain and the storm that's out there. The symmetry, it looks like a perfect little circle, is because that's the limit of the radar. The Earth is round. I joked about it last night. It's not flat, for those of you that thought that. And so as the radar scans out, it's a wavy pattern, and as the Earth curves, it kind of curves off when we don't get a good signal. So that's the problem with that. But we have a pretty good signal of what's exactly happened across the lower third of the peninsula. So this is just the leading edge of the entire hurricane. We're not really seeing the brunt of the hurricane force winds. I have seen reports, and I'm sure that you guys have as well. There have been some strong tropical storm, but tropical storm force winds. I do know this, if I had to give you a fix, by the way, right now the center of Irma is about, and they're estimating this at 8 o'clock, 110 miles to the southeast of Key West. So here's Key West. We don't have a mileage marker on here, but it's about 110 miles to the southeast. So where you start to see that real tight area, and we can't really see the hole in the center, that would, of course, would be the eye, and within that, the center. That's exactly where the center of Irma right now is located. Okay, next radar view, we're going up a little bit, so we're going to head up the peninsula. All right, so that was all the rain that you guys saw in the Miami area, right? Again, I'm going to point out where we are. Here's the West Palm area. We're over toward Fort Myers. We could see all that. And north of that, you guys aren't in the clear yet. In fact, this is not truly with the hurricane. What this is just all that tropical air pushing ashore. So you've got some more of it's a scattered pattern of rain. And once again, where you see those thunderstorms, that's the areas of red. They're more isolated. So you're not seeing a band of them. It's not the feeder bands that we saw to our south, because there's a pretty good feeder band coming in right there. You know, this is just kind of that scattered rain, and a lot of it is pushing ashore. All right, so that's what's happening right now. I mean, the radar is really the best view to show you, here's what's happening right now. The satellite does a couple of other things. It shows you the size. So as you look at this, and you're seeing that perspective of the peninsula, the hurricane is bigger than the width of the peninsula of Florida. Did you guys hear me? The hurricane is wider than the diameter of the peninsula of Florida. So when it comes in, and it can go, yeah, again, there's that migration, the shift, whatever you want to call it. It could go on either side, but I don't see how any coast is going to be avoiding, you know, the impact of the hurricane. Now, within all of that, this is the tight area. It's almost that donut shape. It's really well defined. That's your eye wall. That's where the strongest winds, that's where the heaviest rain is, but you still have winds in the bands, you still have rain in the bands, and it's the flow as it's moving. It's the airflow. It's going to be the push of water. All of that is really what's going to create, you know, that storm surge. And of course, that's the thing that we're looking really impacting the state of Florida. So at 8 o'clock, here's what they have in terms of the track. They're not changing anything. We're seeing a little more of a lift. Earlier today, you guys saw some of the graphics. I posted them. It was mostly a westerly motion. Westerly at 9. Now it's a west-northwest. I really want it to keep moving like that. I want it to turn. We just, you know, it's been exhausting watching this thing. We need it to move and move in and move out so we can deal with whatever we're going to have to deal with. But at least it is moving. It's not the stalled Harvey that we had over in Texas. We're not going to get inundated with those kinds of rainfall amounts. You know, up in this area locally, it may be a handful of inches. The highest rainfall amounts are going to be across the southern end of the state. So look for the lower end of the peninsula, maybe a foot to a foot and a half. That's also possible here along the northeast coast of Florida. And then maybe less than a foot in some of the higher amounts across central and south Florida. You know what? The reason that there's a voluntary evacuation for Leon County is because we are, and this is where I was going to go, so let me just lead into it by doing this. We are now under the hurricane warning. All right, so here's the graphic that shows where watches and warnings are. All right, here's the key for the colors on that map. So the fuchsia color, the purple color, is the hurricane warning. And I'm going to pan back over to the state of Florida. There's the hurricane warning. Go from the Keys all the way up through Jacksonville and then to the west. And as you head to the west, you will see that that's Leon County, that's Wakulla County, and that, of course, being Franklin County. And it's pretty much the majority except the far western panhandle. Now, the far western panhandle where you're seeing the orange, that deep orange, that's the tropical storm warning. Warnings are issued when these kinds of conditions are expected within 36 hours. So the hurricane warning means hurricane conditions within 36 hours. We know that. The hurricane's coming. We're going to get hurricane force winds. Tropical storm warning means tropical storm conditions, 39 to 73, a little lesser on the wind speed, 39 to 73 miles per hour. That'll be a little bit farther to the west, north, and then even to the northeast. So I can't tell you why they did it. I can tell you that because all of these counties are under a hurricane warning, you know, the evacuation it's a voluntary evacuation. If you want to go, you have until about 8 o'clock tomorrow night, because at 8 o'clock tomorrow night is when we think the winds are going to really start to impact us. That's the earliest possible arrival time. So that evacuation was issued. Do you have to, I can't make you go, and I certainly am not going to tell you what to go, but I am going to show you this that shows you the earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds. It's an experimental thing that the Hurricane Center this year for the first time is using. And so they're trying to estimate as the winds, as the storm pushes up the peninsula, what time will the winds come? When will it start to really pick up where I am? And, we're seeing the pickup already across the southern end. We had looked at an 8 o'clock this morning thing where we could have seen some of the earliest arrival of tropical storm force winds. And so that's the area now. Early tomorrow morning, we've got them, pushing up through Lake Okeechobee. And that's 2 a.m. At 8 a.m., it's basically the lower half of the state. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, pretty much just outside this area, but all the way down through most of the peninsula. Here's Sunday night, 8 o'clock. So that's the leading edge. That's why they kind of capped that voluntary evacuation at 8 o'clock, because by then, that's the earliest possible time that we could start to see some of these tropical storm force winds. So we don't want you on the roads. If the winds are starting to pick up, it's very dangerous for that to happen. So that's your window if you want to go. That's what voluntary means. It's voluntary. Why would you go? Why would you want to go? All right, so let's chat about that. Why would you go? Why would you want to go? You would go if you are near a water body, if you're on the coast. You run from the water, you hide from the wind. That's our philosophy. Run from the water, hide from the wind. So you run if you're on the coast from the water because there's the danger of the storm surge. And I'm going to show you this graphic because here's what we're looking at. And remember, this is our coastline, and to Indian Pass is where we have the hurricane warning, but pretty much the entire coastline of Franklin and Wakulla counties, and then around the bend, so we've got Taylor County involved, coastal areas of Jefferson County too, and then of course south of there. So this wraps all the way around, but this area, 4 to 6 foot surge. And so what can happen is the water rises, you've got a storm that's rotating, and then it starts to slap everything toward the coastline. And as it slaps, it pushes the water up because there's no place for the water to go. Now, the shelf is really shallow in the Gulf of Mexico. You guys know that. And because the shelf is so shallow, you get a pretty rapid rise of water, where typically on the East Coast, the rise is not as high because the shelf is a little bit deeper and there's room for the water to go. So watch the green, right? There's a 2 to 4 foot estimation here, and across the coastal areas of Georgia, 4 to 6. Of course, the worst of it is down here. Same deal. The worst of it is down here, but it's also along the Gulf Coast. So the highest surge is going to be here north of Key West, Everglades. So you guys know these places, right? All the way up, through the Naples area, possibly a little bit less as you come up and a little bit less. But all of this can change. It can vary a bit. Don't confine us to these thresholds. But this is what we're looking at. So evacuation in Leon County. What do? I don't have answers. I wish I had answers. What you do is what you feel most comfortable with doing. Do what makes you feel good, what makes you feel comfortable wherever you are, wherever your environment is. So we've had a week for this, right? Last weekend we started. Store, supplies, non-perishables. Maybe you have done something more than that, but you're ready, you're hunkered down, and then you hear this thing where there's a voluntary evacuation order. Oh my God, am I supposed to be going? Am I missing the boat? Is everybody... Please stop panicking, because as I start to hear it, I think it's making all of us very, very nervous. We've done everything we're supposed to do. Run from the water, hide from the wind. Now, in your home, you need to be in your safest place. If you're along the coast, if you're near the water body, I want you out. Evacuate. There is but no doubt. Do not risk your life. I was preaching earlier. I'm going to preach one more time. My husband is with LCSO. He's on the 12-hour shifts now. If you stay and you need to be rescued, you're putting my husband and people that are like him in all of these first responder roles at risk. I don't want anything to happen to him. I know you don't want anything to happen to your family and your friends. So let's make some smart decisions. You're on the coast, you get out. If you're in a mobile home, you get out. There is but no doubt that there is room for air to get underneath in a mobile home like a car. If air gets underneath, it flips, damage happens, injuries happen, fatalities happen. Again, I'm not dressing anything up anymore because now we're in a crunch zone. So these are the possibilities. Is my house safe? I am not going to every house in every neighborhood and telling you. I don't know. You know. You have lived there. You tell us. Tell me if your house is safe. Are you comfortable in it? Is it built pretty well? Is it really flimsy? Is it on sticks? If you're not comfortable, you may not have to evacuate. You may actually have friends or family where you could go to a more secure place, hunker down with them, be with people, and maybe feel the safety net of that kind of environment. So I'm not telling you what to do. We're all watching the same information at the same time. I want you to be safe. I want you to feel safe. And oh, by the way, I'm not even in a t-shirt tonight. See, I'm dressed up. I did go to church. And they talked about the hurricane. And I can tell you this, it was interesting. I go to St. Thomas. It was packed. People know, tomorrow the storm's coming in. And honestly, we'll put everything in wherever we have to, and we will hope for the very best outcome for all of us. And so everything that we can all do to make sure that we have a good, positive outcome is good. So that's all. Dave, I absolutely going to give my best to Ted. Everybody knows they're out there on the streets and they're doing these really incredibly long shifts, and they're going to be working straight through. There are no days off for them. So that's really why you get the little preachy thing about me tonight, because I don't want either the rise of water at the coast or whatever's happening inland to cause you to have to be rescued. So we are under the hurricane warning. Hurricane warnings and watches, all that stuff used to only be issued for the coastline, and what is so serious is the enormity of the hurricane. It is so large, 200 miles in its girth. No, it's not the largest ever recorded. I don't want to hear that anymore. Yeah, I'm calling on everybody to be accurate. It's about 400 across. Sandy was bigger, but it's big enough, right? I mean, how big do we need it to be? I would really love a tiny little speck to kind of roll through, but that ain't going to happen. Here's the eye wall. There's the center. This is the core. The core is what really impacts the most severely. No, I'm not boarding my windows. I would have to cut them and get the flock so I could lock them in because we have a brick home. Whatever I'm doing shouldn't be what you do, depending on how you feel or how well your home is built. That's why I'm telling you. And I'm here, we've made all these decisions, and I can't even imagine people that have evacuated already. My husband and I were talking about this. People have evacuated from Miami, and some of them were in church. And so we're full of evacuees. I can't even imagine the stress that's going on in their heads if they're then told, oh, wait a minute, if you want, you can evacuate again. It's a taxing time. It's an anxious time. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. We've been waiting for this thing to come for over a week. At this point, I want it in. I want it through. I want to know what we're going to have to deal with. there are things that can happen as the storm is across land. So let's talk about that. What will we look at to see that? Oh, you guys are on close up here. How's that? Tallahassee Democrat reports that Irma will cause us more damage than Hermine. Would I agree? I don't know that we know. I know we can guess. If it said could cause more damage, they're absolutely right. And that, of course, is the potential, which is, again, why there's that, voluntary evacuation order. I think a lot of what kind of damage we get depends on this track, because there's still a lot of uncertainty. The difference was, do you guys remember Hermine? I don't know how much you guys remember, but it was coming straight up. Counterclockwise, like all these things are. It's coming straight up. And, as we watched it, and we were kind of close to that midnight hour. Remember that? All of a sudden, tell me to close TCC for a week. I know, I saw that, Mary, and I was kind of waiting for TCC to follow suit. And I think a lot of it is we have to think about the students that may have gone home or to be with their families. And honestly, I'm sure for TCC it'll be last minute. But yeah, they're probably waiting to see what the impact is going to be before they do it. But, we're a week ahead of them, so we've got a little bit more luxury and latitude in terms of doing that. All right, let's go back to last year. Hermine's coming straight up. We get slapped with the eye wall. It rolled like that. And as it rolled like that, that was noisy. That was most of the damage that we got. In fact, in my neighborhood, I could watch the trees. When they toppled, they came from northeast and they fell to the southwest, because that was the direction of that band as it rolled through. That was the eye wall. All right, so that was coming straight at us this way. It ultimately made landfall near the St. Mark's area, so we had it. Now, this one's coming in at this angle. Okay, a couple of things, and I'm going to candidly admit this. Candidly, I say to you, it's coming in at this direction. It is a much larger hurricane. It is a much stronger hurricane. So let's remind you, the winds are 120. Hermine was 80. This is a 40. Right now it's 40, and we still think that as it hits the straits here, there could be a little bit more strengthening. So minimally, it's not quite twice, but it's a lot stronger than what Hermine was. All right, so it's coming in this way. The right side of direction is the slightly stronger side of the hurricane, so what works or it bodes well for us is the fact that we're on the left-hand side, which is a little bit weaker. I'm not saying there's no impact, because remember, you've got nearly 100 or so miles. I'm going to check this as I'm talking to you guys, of these hurricane force winds. Let's see how large an area is being impacted. It's always at the bottom. You look at the top and it's not there. All right, hurricane conditions expected to continue through the warned area. How large an area? Give me the dimensions. Hurricane force winds are up to 70 miles from the center, so we could be talking about a girth of, maybe 130, 140 miles. All right, 140 miles of hurricane force winds. If it holds here, that's pretty much the limit. But we're too close for comfort. Nobody's going to call this. This is not a time of death, done. This wobbles, it nudges, it migrates. I keep telling you guys this, so you can't bank on a line or a point. What if it's a 20-mile shift, and the 20-mile shift is a little bit west? Well, now we're talking about the eye wall coming toward us. What if it were to shift 20 miles to the east? That would give us a better diagnosis. It would be less of an impact. But we can't call it because, and here's why. A, tropical forecasting is far less accurate than day-to-day, and then B, we don't have as much data, we don't have as much information, we can't do the accuracy that we do with day-to-day forecasting. That's it. In a nutshell, that's it. Okay, so now what? It comes this way. You got the right side brushing across the land. Friction. Friction slows down winds. You guys know that. What it also does is it kind of cuts off a little bit of the water supply. So you're not going to get as much of that juicy air, that much of that juice, that fuel for the hurricane flowing in. But, and there's the big but, the west side is still across, maybe the west coast of Florida, and all that juicy fuel for the hurricane is going to come in from the Gulf of Mexico, which, oh, by the way, is really, really warm. So we're not cutting it off completely, but there are some signs of help. As it moves up the peninsula, it should weaken. And how do I know that? I don't know anything. I know what typically happens, though, because of the interaction. So even the Hurricane Center says mixed landfall is an M. The M is a major hurricane. makes landfall as an M, major hurricane. Now, you know, it's across land, or at least it should be. Even if the center isn't entirely over land, you've got the eastern bank over the peninsula. That's going to slow things down. That's helpful. It'll slow things down. It'll stop all that moisture from coming in. And this should help to weaken the hurricane. So major, major, major hurricane. And now we're around the Tampa Bay area. And then the M goes to an H. All right, what does H mean? See, this is really where I wish I could see you guys and see your hands. How many of you are raising your hand? How many of you know what an H is? Nobody's typing anything. I really was hoping for a little feedback here at this point. Nothing. Okay. I'm just silly now because this is long. So it goes from major, major, major hurricane, which is category 3 or higher, 111 mile per hour winds or higher, to H. H is just hurricane. Hurricane, not major, can have a top end. So I don't really want to, dismiss anything, but the top end now 95 instead of, 120 that it currently has. Major, not major. Again, I'm not telling you run for the hills, we're all going to die kind of thing. I am suggesting there are some things that really help us a bit. A little bit more over land, a little drier influence, a little bit of friction, and the fact that as it's moving up because of the land, that should help to slow it down. All right, let's play the game. What if it doesn't hit? You know what? If it doesn't hit, I'm dead meat. My reputation is dead if it doesn't hit. But, a lot of us, because we're all saying it's going to turn, it's going to turn. And the reason we think it's going to turn is because of this whole high pressure thing out over the Atlantic. And that big ridge has been helping to kind of push it, and we're hoping to help steer it. So that's why we're waiting for that turn. And you watch the center, it's starting to lift a little bit. So instead of due west, it's a little north of west, and yesterday we were seeing west-northwest, and again on this most recent one we're seeing the same exact thing. So it starts to lift. Okay, what if it misses the peninsula in its entirety? Well, and again, I'm just going to be candid with you guys. If it misses the peninsula in its entirety and it stays in the Gulf, we're in trouble. We really are in trouble. If it stays to the west and it does not brush the peninsula, it does not make landfall on the peninsula, it stays in the Gulf of Mexico, we really are in trouble because A, there's the warm loop current in the southeastern Gulf. Incredibly warm, and it can help to really strengthen a hurricane rapidly. And then, of course, if it starts to turn and it heads this way, now we're talking about a direct hit. The Hurricane Center doesn't think so. The Hurricane Center doesn't think so because, the consensus is that it should kind of follow this path. But I do want to caution you by reminding you that the cone, at least the right side of the cone, is over land, but the left side, which is the western side here, that's over the Gulf. So it could swing east, it could swing west, but right now the Hurricane Center, these are the hurricane specialists, and this is their expertise. Their thinking is the turn should start to happen and we should see it start to move across the peninsula. So, that at least right now, that's what we're thinking. All right, let's check the radars again to see what's happening down in South Florida. All right, so we're watching a pretty good inundation of rain. One more time. And there's some good news. Remember we saw those boxes that were cropping up in the red? Those were tornado warnings. They have disappeared, so that means that there was one right there that popped up, but it's no longer in effect. So we're still seeing the rain and we're still seeing heavy thunderstorms, but right now at least, I'm not seeing the tornado warnings pop up. So the center's still way down here. The center's way down there. Let me give you the dimensions again. It is approximately, here's Key West, right? There's a small plus right there. That's Key West. Right now, the center of Irma is 110 miles southeast. So it's down there, kind of where it says set animation speed. That's where the center is. It's still moving west-northwest. The west-northwest motion is a little bit slower. It's about 7 miles per hour, so it may be taking longer to head toward the coastline. This is all the hurricane. It's all the hurricane. This is the core. This is the eye wall down here. These are the bands on the outskirts. Within these bands, we have tropical storm force winds. One more time. Tropical storm force winds are 39 to 73. So hurricane, it hits 74 and it goes on up. No top end, no upper limit, but these are tropical storm force winds. When we get closer to the center, they'll start experiencing those hurricane force winds. All right, if we go up the coast a little bit, right? Now you can see what's happening. So here's the upper limit to where the rain coming in with the bands. Hello, Arlene. How are you today? Here is, let's see, breaking up. What did you say about the storm going west? Anything is possible, but most of us are not convinced, and that includes the Hurricane Center. There could be a wobble either east or west. West is worse for us, but the overall consensus is the turn happens. It keeps pushing up the peninsula, and there should be some breaking up because of the land, because of the drier, slightly drier air. That should be happening there. Okay, so here's the other radar. All right, there we are, right? So here's these are the bands. This is just the big outflow. You got this big storm. It's covering nearly 200 miles on either side of its center, so a 400-mile swath of this incredibly strong hurricane. And then to its north, there's that was just an update for you. There's that onshore flow. So you got more of a scattered variety of rain, scattered rain showers, some scattered thunderstorms. You know, it's really a burst of rain with some breaks in between. But, you know, it's just early. You know, and this, you know, may get your attention because you see it's raining out there, but that's just even before the hurricane comes. So it's lifting up, or at least the impact right now is lifting up. And so as that happens, that's what we are watching. So there's the satellite picture. There's this southern tip of Florida. So watch the clouds blow up. When I say blow up, change color, right? Orange and red. Taller thunderstorms. They color in the tall cloud tops. So that was one of those bands. You know, as it wraps around, you'll see the rain. It will rotate around, so you'll watch it move down to the southwest. But, you know, these are the tallest thunderstorms at this point. So that's what we're watching. Again, the size of it tells us that as it moves up, it's going to cover from coast to coast the entire peninsula of Florida. And then, you know, we have to watch for wobbles. I don't want you to see a wobble and think the direction has changed. And you have heard it, I have heard it, and I keep telling you guys this. I'm tired of these armchair meteorologists. Here are the forecast points. I don't want to focus on a point, but at least watch the trend. These are the points that the Hurricane Center thinks that the hurricane will come closest to as it moves. And already, you know, there was one point, it seemed to have been there, right? There it is. Boom, gotcha. And then it looks like it's a little bit west. Okay, so gotcha. And then it moves west. So it may wobble. Hurricanes wobble. They don't follow a nice, narrow, thin path. They're not smooth in their motion. It's all erratic. And think about all the energy that's going on. So it's going to wobble a little bit. Don't think it's truly changed its direction. Just keep watching the overall trend. If the overall trend seems to follow this, and following this we need it to keep rushing the land areas to kind of slow down, then the confidence grows. So I think tonight, this is our big night. Tonight's the night where it starts to turn. We have to watch where the turn happens. Again, all of us in the entire peninsula of Florida, through Jacksonville, and all the way as far west, this is where it may get a little bit blurry, as Leon County, Wakulla County, and Franklin counties. And even across the state line into South Georgia. So that's Seminole, that's Grady, Thomas, and all areas east. And then slightly north of there, we're all under hurricane warning. What the hurricane warning says is those conditions in 36 hours. We have a hurricane coming, and it's going to impact us within 36 hours. That's what it is. That's what it means. Oh, I don't know. Do I get bonus points for being your sister? Who knows? Kristen, are you going to give me a live shot of you out on the coast? Are you going to show me what's going on there? I don't really know at this point. All right, so we're all under the hurricane warning. And then see that orange area? What's your tropical storm warning? Tropical storm warning says, okay, tropical storm conditions, top end would be 73-mile-an-hour winds, and that would be outside of the warned area, so west of us, into the Florida Panhandle, not all the way over toward Pensacola, but far enough. I think this is the Okaloosa-Walton County line. So that's where it is. I know you did. All right, so you're in, Kristen's on with us, and Kristen is in Melbourne? Is that where you are staying, Kristen? You're going to have to, I know you did your best job reporting. I was impressed with your reporting skills. I'm going to make you my hurricane specialist reporting live out of Melbourne. But you showed me some video, and you had the winds already picking up. So you're seeing the gusty winds, and I'm guessing sporadically you were getting some of these showers. So it wasn't the solid rain that was coming in. Dee Dee, I'm going to get to that in a minute. It wasn't the solid rain coming in, just some scattered showers and maybe a few thunderstorms. So you might have seen some strikes of lightning, but you won't see a lot of lightning right now. You have to look to the orange, so it's a little bit of a distance away from you. Okay, let's go to the winds, because you guys are all asking what's going to happen and what time is it all going to happen. I can't tell you anything. This is the experimental thing that the Hurricane Center put out the first time this year. So it's seasonal. If you look at the caption here, it's the earliest reasonable time. Reasonably. It's the earliest time that we could get tropical storm force winds. So what it's saying, and I'm just going to focus in on us because we're here. Leon County, us. You see that? Sunday, 8 o'clock. Sunday at 8 o'clock, and I'm guessing this is why they capped the evacuation, the voluntary evacuation at 8 o'clock. This is the earliest possible time, based on the Hurricane Center's best estimate, that we should start to experience tropical storm force winds. Tropical storm force winds start at 39. Top end is 73, but this is the earliest time they could start. Now, if they start, that's the weakest wind we see, because within that large area, right, that big hurricane, it's a smaller area within the center where you've got the hurricane force winds. So as it's coming up, this is the first time we start to get the winds. It looks like tomorrow evening about 8 o'clock. It'll keep pushing toward the north and to the northwest. We have tropical storm force winds until we get to the core or the eye wall, if in fact it hits us. And the reason I'm telling you that, I promise you I'll stay safe, because this is what I do. I don't know why I said that. I was saying something that was important. The reason I say that is, where was the other thing? I don't even know what I have anymore. You're going to love this stuff. If it wobbles, right? If it wobbles, right? Let's say it adjusts to the right. We would love that. We would love that. If it adjusts to the right, we get less of an impact. If it adjusts to the left, we get more of an impact. And the adjustment, we don't know. We won't know anything, honestly, until a little bit later tonight when this thing really does start to take that turn. We haven't seen a true turn at this point. And so, yeah, please don't do that. Not on mine. I'll just, I'll block you. You won't be able to access this stuff. So when it comes up, we have to be cautious. We have to be cautious because I don't want you to dismiss anything. I don't want you to feel like, okay, it's definitely moved. It's absolutely shifted. We don't know any of that. And all we're doing is watching at this point and waiting. All right, so here are the latitude and longitude markings, right? The straight lines, there's the center. Not moving due west now, slightly north of west, so they're calling it a west-northwest motion. This is their forecast positions. It's not exactly going to be there. This is not an exact science. You guys know it. It's science. It changes. So it's coming up. There's the core. There's the eye wall. We want it to kind of continue in this overall direction. If it keeps following this overall path, it follows the path that the Hurricane Center is thinking. And honestly, after the storm, there are a lot of words I don't want to use. Monitor, be prepared, that kind of stuff. It's been a long time. It's been a whole week. We started over the weekend, last weekend, the holiday weekend, with the preps. We did everything we were supposed to. We did it. We waited. And then as I think our patience was being tried, we kept thinking we weren't doing enough. And then today, the voluntary evacuation comes out, and so now we're really questioning whether or not we've made the right decision. Whatever decision you guys make, you have to be comfortable with. If you are not comfortable where you are, if you feel like you're not in a safe place, there are shelters too, by the way, but if you really feel like you want to go, go. You have until 8 o'clock tomorrow night, because remember, that was that limit of where we think those tropical storm force winds are going to first start to come in. So that's your time frame. If you want to go, go, if it makes you feel better, but you can't leave after 8 o'clock tomorrow night. If you're along the water and you're you're at the coastline and the water is there and we're all under the hurricane warning, if you're along the coastline, I want you out. I want you to evacuate, because you shouldn't be there to begin with. You're going to get so much of the hurricane. You're first going to get wind, then you're going to get the rise of water. We call that the storm surge. It can be pushed a little higher if it hits at high tide. And it's really shallow in the Gulf of Mexico. So I want you guys to think about that. Am I not here, Dave? Are you not seeing me? I don't know that anybody else has said that. So I hope that maybe it's just you at this point. So you get wind. you get the storm surge, and then if you're at the coast, you're going to get everything else, which are the incredible winds with the hurricane, which is the incredible rainfall with the hurricane, though the rainfall totals are not going to be excessive. And a couple of reasons why, one of which is it's moving, and it's moving pretty good. It's actually moving at a pretty good rate of speed, and so because of that, yes, we'll get rain, but for us, at least the projections from the Hurricane Center, they've got 2 to 6 inches. It'll be a lot more in South Florida. It'll be a lot more in Northeast Florida, but in this area, 2 to 6 inches of rainfall. So it is moving. It's not Harvey. It's not stalling out. We're not getting, 3 and 4 feet of rainfall. In Panama City, I think you guys are going to get some wind gusts. You may even hit those tropical storm force winds, but out of everybody in the state right now, you guys seem to be in good shape. And, I'm trying to... Good, Mary, thank you for telling me that, because I wasn't really sure what was happening. It may have been me flipping around because, I'm producing my own show here. Yeah, I'm producer, director, and talent, if you can call it that. Oh, and I was going to try to be funny. I don't know if I can be funny. I'm looking for a little sheet of paper. But at this point, here, this is what we know. Here's the possibility of the storm surge. And so as you look at the possibility here, this is their estimation of what we consider to be the height of the water. When we call it the storm surge, it's the height above the normal high tide. So there's 2 high and 2 low tides typically each day. And as the 2 high and 2 low tides come, we would love for hurricanes to hit at the time of low tide, because that would keep everything a little more shallow. But if it hits at high tide, we may actually increase these things. And, this is a long duration. We start to see winds. Remember, we said up here, 8 o'clock tomorrow night should be the earliest arrival. It could be after that, because that's the earliest possible arrival. So we're looking again, excuse me, I'm going to take a drink of water while we're chatting here. We're looking at an evening storm, which, it makes us a little bit more nervous because we can't really see what's going on outside. Though, in terms of dangers, it keeps everybody inside the house because it's nighttime. So the earliest arrival tomorrow evening. And with that, because I don't really know what the times of the tides are, these are the expected high tides, the storm surge. And again, if it's high tide, it could be a little bit higher, but minimally a 4 to 6 foot surge, and that's around our bend all the way down through our coastal communities as well, and that of course includes Taylor County and maybe even parts of Dixie County as well. So we're looking at a lot of water. I honestly, I don't want stupid comments. I opened this up publicly so that you guys can be smart about it and get good information. You guys know me. Most of you know me. I take weather seriously. There's a time to fool around. There's a time not to fool around. This is not the time to fool around because I think people are really looking for some serious answers. Here's my serious answer, Mary. There's no wine tonight. It's water. Maybe I'll eat some grapes, and that'll be about as close as I get to wine tonight. This has been of long duration. It's long duration. We've been planning, we've been waiting, and unfortunately the real problem is we're still waiting for it to come. Now, while it's starting to hit the South Florida area, it's not up here yet, and we got to wait all day tomorrow too. So those of you that still haven't done what you have to do, there's a little bit of an opportunity here. Unfortunately, however, you may find yourself really scrambling to find whatever supplies it is that you need, because as we all know, because we've been out there trying to get this stuff, a lot of it's all sold out, a lot of it's gone. There are still trucks that are coming in. Carrie, I'm going to have to join you a little bit, but I'm going to stick with water right now. And honestly, the reason I'm sticking with water is, you know me really well, Carrie. If I start to get tired or if I start drinking, I will start slurring, and I just want to make sure that I'm clearly telling you guys what I think you need to know and what you should know in a clear fashion. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I don't even know if I'm helping, but I'm trying to help you guys to feel calm, or at least to have all the right information. And I would like to point out, there's makeup. I actually washed my hair. I did a nice shower. My hair doesn't really look so good at this point. I was outside. It was a little windy. But honestly, I'm just trying to give you guys some information so we make the right decisions. That's all it is at this point. Okay, so this could be funny. Maybe not. You know how on TV? Oh, I have to give myself a title. It was Weather Captain. And if Valerie's here, she'll verify that. Because last year when we had Hermine, that's what I went by. But, everybody on television gets We call it a super. You see a title, you see a name. So I have an AMS seal. I'm not lying about that. And that's my name. I am Nancy Dignon. And I was the weather captain last year, but I am a meteorologist. So just so, oh, Valerie, you're there. Look. Are you laughing? I'm using the super that you dubbed me. Weather captain. But honestly, it was just a little bit of levity. It's serious stuff. It really is. It's a major hurricane. It's coming toward us, and we're going to get hit. Weather whisper. Oh, I could be the weather whisperer. That's good, Donnie. I might actually use that at some point. There have been so many nicknames. One of my favorites, oh, by the way, and this was when I was working at Channel 27. You know those things that we have in our ear? We call them an IFB. And so we were running on time, and I don't know if it was a weather event or what, but my producer, and I'm not sure she's on here, Nishika is her name, and she's in my ear, and I don't know if I was running long, so it could be me in in total. I'll go with meteorologist extraordinaire. But anyway, Nishika's in my ear, and I guess she wanted me to rap, and so, you know, there's not somebody giving me the rap cue. In my ear, she's going, "Come on, Digginator!" And so Digginator was my nickname for a very, very small window. Melissa, I saw that you said you're staying. I can't believe you're staying. I understand that you guys all want to be together. I don't like where you are. I would go with muffins over cupcakes, but you know what? I don't need anything at this point, and I'm not honestly so big on sugar. I'll do more. Oh, you can't even see that. I'll do more in the way of alcohol later. At this point, it will go to wine, and that's probably my limit, but we're all exhausted. I got a little bit of sleep last night, and maybe you guys did as well, and I'm hoping you did. You know, this is tiresome. This is anxiety-driven. This is nervousness. This is everything rolled into one. And quite candidly, it's the worst hurricane that we are all in the state of Florida going to impact in one single event. There's no dressing that up. And that probably wasn't the nicest way to say it, but, you know, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to lie to you. This is the worst hurricane that I have seen that's probably going to impact the entire state. And it won't be done with us. It's going to head into South Georgia. And you guys up there, and I know I've got some folks in Thomasville there, and many of my friends up in Atlanta. I know many of you have evacuated to Atlanta. You'll get leftover. It will be weaker. It will be less, but you're going to get stuff. I promise you I'm going to read every single one of these comments later. Me and the boy evacuated to, thank you, Melissa. I honestly, thank you so much. That makes me feel good to know that you evacuated. I don't want to be nervous for you guys. I don't want to be nervous about you guys. When I ask you guys to make good decisions, I'm trusting that you are all relatively intelligent people and that you know exactly what you're supposed to do. You know if your house is solid. If you're not comfortable, go. And shelters have already opened. So maybe if it's not your house, but you want to be nearby, I'm simply encouraging you guys to look up the shelters. And a lot of them are coming across the screen on TV. And so you can see them. They're all being supered for you. Find the nearest shelter. You can go to the websites, too, and look up shelters. And I know Leon County's website, and if Dee Dee's still here, she can quickly remind me what it is. But they've got all kinds of good information. You're not alone in this. I'm so proud of the governor. I'm not his biggest supporter. I'm not his biggest ally, but I could not be more impressed with all of his work and all of his operations and how he has delegated and carried out. We've been doing this for a while. We've been doing this for an entire week. There are all kinds of resources are out there. Please take advantage. That's the whole reason. Their job is to make sure that we're safe. You're supposed to help yourself, but they're supposed to have us as well. I got you. I got you on the weather end. I will give you you ask me a question, I promise you, as long as it's not something that I can't answer or something that's ridiculous, I'll answer it for you. But, their job is to help support us. And so, all of the resources are there for you. Take advantage of them if you have to. But at the coast, evacuate. Mobile home, evacuate. You guys are the ones that I'm most concerned about. And everybody else, we are hunkering down. So, one more time, 8 o'clock, it's 100, the center of Irma. Did I do that? Oh. Are you guys with me? I flipped you. I may have lost you for a second. Here is Key West, right? That plus sign right there that you can barely see. The center's way down here. It's 110 miles, the exact center of Irma, 110 miles to the southeast of Key West. Now, we've been talking for a while, or at least I have. I'm running my mouth. And so it is possible that we can get an update on the position. And so while we're speaking, I'm going to see if we can do that. But this is, all, honestly, it's continuously updated. So what is happening is current. It's always current. All right, I got an update for the 9 o'clock position. How you like that? All right, well, want to look at this with me? All right, what are we seeing? We got in Vacay Key, there has been a wind gust of, this is a sustained wind, by the way, 48 miles an hour, gust to 66. Marathon, and I'll show you Marathon. It's a little bit to the north and east of Key West. They are reporting gusts of 51 miles per hour and a gust to 71. So those are the tropical storm force winds, by the way. Remember, tropical storm is that range. Its top end is 73. And so what have we got in terms of a current update? Instead of 110 now, the center is 105 miles southeast of Key West. So you guys can see that with me. It still has winds of 125. All right, so that's the bad news, right? Why is that bad news? Because remember, it was 120. We're up a little bit, 125. But we're ready for that because remember we said there's a possibility that it could continue to, strengthen as it leaves the coast and then heads toward the Straits of Florida. Motion west-northwest at 9, that did not change. The pressure I'm not concerned about. It's about the same. All right, so now 105. Here's Key West, 105 miles to the southeast of Key West. Here is Marathon, and so they have had wind gusts up to 71. They've had sustained winds to 51, and so those are the reports that early on are coming in. So this is the Tropical Storm Force Shield. That's the tropical storm. That's tropical storm force winds. The reports are verifying all that. Down here is the core. Down here is the eye wall. Down here is the hurricane force winds. And the hurricane force starts at 74. And as we, excuse me, now know, the sustained winds are 125. So 125 is the sustained. There can be gusts on top of that. So that is at least the minimal strength at this point. I'm shifting here. Maybe I'm not shifting so well. All right, if we go up the coast a little bit, just so you can see who else is getting some of this hurricane. So that's the hurricane. These are the bands. And then, you know what? And I'm barely seeing that Cape Coral thing. I'm glad they made it out, and nobody knows what it's going to look like when you get back. But you're not there while it's happening. And honestly, for those of you that needed to go and you went, I'm so pleased welcome. And I'm so pleased that you guys did that. So here's the scattered rain. This is a big outflow. Counterclockwise circulation, big outflow. And so you got some scattered rain, you got some scattered thunderstorms. We have had some tornado warnings that have been posted for those of you that are just kind of joining us. Tornado warnings primarily because, A, it can happen with a hurricane, but also we've had cooler, drier air come in with a cold front. And when you get cold and dry and it collides with the warm, muggy, you get a little spin up. And so we can see some tornadoes, and you guys know this. A lot of times you get the big tornado watches that are issued before the hurricane's pushing ashore. And, in the grand scheme of things, that's not our biggest concern. It is a concern, but it's not our biggest one. We have wind with the hurricane. We have heavy rains with the hurricane, especially here. This is the area that's going to see the greatest total. And we could be looking at, a good, 12 to possibly 15 or so inches, so maybe a foot to a foot and a half of rainfall. On the extreme southern end, and then also up here around the northeast area of Florida. And the wind and the rain are not just all by itself, because you also have the surge. So right now, everything would be offshore. Let me go back a second here. Right now, everything is offshore. You can see the offshore. Everything's pushing this way. So you're not going to have much of a surge here along the southeast coast of the peninsula, because everything's going that way. But if we go to the other side of the state, you have the rise of water starting to increase because everything is pushing toward the coastline. So as it pushes not only the air, it pushes the water. And that water is just going to, keep getting inundated here. And so this is where they're expecting some of the highest surges. But it makes sense, right? You push here, push offshore there, then we lift the hurricane, and on the backside, that really is when, and it's pretty much from Naples on down to the Keys, that's when the push starts to, come around and it starts to go the other way, onshore instead of offshore. So that's it, guys. That's our 8 o'clock. That's our 8 o'clock advisory. That's the graphic. That's not going to change until we hit 11 o'clock. The reason it won't change until then, every 3 hours we get the advisories. We're now getting position updates. So if you look, and you can look at the nhc.noaa, NOAA.gov, G-O-V, and they have a lot of really good information, and that's who you should be trusting at this point. But they'll do position updates, so you get a fix every hour, but the advisories are coming every 3. I am staying here because I have done everything I'm supposed to do, and I feel like I'm going to be okay. If I have to, I will hide for the wind. Keep this in your head. It's something that we tell everybody. Your method of last resort. Okay, Muhammad, you're going to be gone here. I'm going to block you. Your method of last resort is a mattress over your head in the bathtub. If something comes crashing into your roof, we want you on the lowest floor, by the way. I'm reminding you of this, and I know you know this. The bottom floor, if you have a multi-floor house. Bottom floor of the house, we want you away from windows, away from things that could blow in, but your method of last resort is mattress over your head in the bathtub. If stuff falls, mattress protects you. The bathtub would stop stuff from going sideways, and if everything is failing around you, keep that in mind. All right, so that was the 8 o'clock, and now it's a 9 o'clock advisory. This is way too long. I got to stop doing this. We'll try to chat again one more time tonight, just to see if anything has changed, and it may be really, really fast. I'll block him, Carrie, I promise you, because that ain't going to happen on my social media. Yeah, he's not essential to all of us, isn't he? You guys are essential, and that's really why you've been told what you have been told. If you've been told to evacuate and it's mandatory, you go. If it's voluntary, you make the decision, but make that good decision. And so we'll chat again a little bit later. So for now, guys, I think I'm going to join some of you. I think I may have a little glass of wine too. And thank you guys for being patient. Thank you guys for watching. I don't know that I've been helpful, but I'm trying to do my best here to help explain things. And I know I see they don't do it. They don't do it on television. They don't have as much time as me. I've been on this thing for an hour today. That's ridiculous. But I can do it. I can do whatever I want in my Dignon Weather studio. So this is your captain saying adieu. We'll see you guys later, okay? Good night.